So our guest today is Lady Cat, and she's going to be talking all about human design. And I've got a bunch of questions that I'm going to ask her, and she's got my chart. So it's going to be interesting to see what she thinks I am. So, Cat, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to
hmm
see you. Just for our audience, where in the world are you at the moment, and where are you normally?
I am currently residing in Portugal, and I grew up in New Zealand and have lived most of my adult life in Australia. So, yeah, that Europe is not my home, but I'm fast making it that.
Enjoying it by the sounds of it.
Totally. Yeah.
Cool. So, human design. I think it's one of those terms that if you've heard of it, it makes some sense, and if you've no idea, it's just two words. We all understand human, we understand design. That
Mhm.
you've been working with human design for a while and done all the training, but what initially drew you to human design, and yeah, how did you become involved in it?
Yeah. Great question. I will share. I mean, it met me. Often in human design, you hear people say, when did human design find you?
Mm.
So I'll share it that way. It found me 4 years ago. I was actually at a breathwork retreat in Bali. I'd had quite a year of quite utter chaos in my life, I won't lie. And I had taken myself to Bali to do this quite intense breathwork retreat. And whilst I was there, one of the participants had just found or had just been initiated into human design. Human design had just found him. So he was, like many of us in the beginning of our journeys, he was running around with his app and he was like, when are you born? When were you born? When were you born? And he asked me when I was born, and I shared with him. And he didn't say much, but what he said really impacted me. He kind of went, whoa. But I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I am a manifest. He was like, you are a manifester. That is very rare. You must be weird. Or like something that made me go, he's right. and and yeah, I was just immediately curious. And like, how does he know that? Yeah, you must have felt no, you must have felt like an outcast your whole life. That's what he said. And I just went, like I felt seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really, my curiosity was immediately, you can imagine, like, how did he know that? What is going on
How did you know that? Just from a little bit of information. Yeah, I filled my chart in, and you put your name in, so you pick Kevin Paul Humphrey, and it says when were you born? That's easy to remember. What time you were born? It's like, oh, what time was I born? Oh yeah, I remember Mum telling me. Yeah, so I put that in, and then where were you born? It's like, oh yeah, Croydon, and then it gives you this chart, and you're like, how does it know that from that brief bit of information? Which it's so powerful, isn't it?
here? Yeah.
Anyway, can you give us sort of a brief? It's a big subject, but can you give us a brief explanation of what human design can do for people? Those like myself are unfamiliar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's about getting to know who you are.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, that's the simple, easiest way for me to get it across. Excuse me. Yeah, getting to know who you are. I feel like, well, most of us, human design even actually says this, that most of us are asking, who am I? We have this existential question that runs in our lives and to varying degrees, depending on who you are. But yeah, it answers the question, who am I? In a nutshell.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's nice and
Simple.
simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
We all get to that stage now. I was like, why am I here, and who am I? What's my true purpose? We do that thing where we follow the crowd, and then one day we're brave enough to perk our heads up and ask the question. Yeah, that's beautiful. So
Yeah.
does human design differ from those other sort of personality type things like astrology, Myers-Briggs that we've all done?
Yeah, great question. One of the common misconceptions about human design, and mostly that's because it is becoming a bit more popular, and so we see these what look like profiles on social media, right? Is that is personality profiling. The big difference between human design and personality profiling is that, I mean, it feels obvious to me, like the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram as well. We find those things, we get our printouts from those things, from questions asked. And when questions are asked and answered by ourselves, then those answers are coming from our mind. So what we get with human design is that, it's embodiment. It's about, it has nothing to do with what you think you know about yourself, basically. It's very different. Human design also does it, one of its parts of its synthesis, is the best way to say that, is astrology. So astrology wouldn't be classed as personality profiling, but it's also not astrology. It also has, it uses astrology language sometimes, but it is, it's astrology mutated, is the best way to say it. It's got a whole nother layer to it. Yeah, so that's it.
That makes sense. It's that whole piece of you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know, and I assume that's what it's showing you.
Yeah, I mean, the Myers-Briggs is such a good example of that, right? You fill in all the questions with your thoughts, and then it tells you who you think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, interesting. Cool. So, what are the key components or elements of human design chart, and what do they represent?
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, we have this. You put your details into the software, right? Whichever software you've got, and it spits out this chart that we call a body graph. You've seen your body graph, kind of looks like a big lit up Christmas tree.
I've seen the one.
Yeah. What that is a map of is the energetic movement in your body. That's the best way to say it. So where you have colored in centers, so there are 9 centers, when you have them colored in, that means you have consistent energy from that place in your body. This is something that often gets missed and I get quite passionate about, is that this is a map to the body. We get quite caught up with the details of it, but yeah. And so then the opposite of that is when you have a white center. The white centers are where you don't have consistent energy. You haven't been connected up there, and there's no right or wrong in it, but it means you're receptive there. You're there where there's a potential for conditioning in the white centers that ultimately turns into the places where you're the most wise, actually. And I guess the best way to say it is that, that's where you're receptive. So the colored in is kind of putting energy out into the world, and the white is receptive to the energy in the field. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Those are the main, that is, I mean, at the very base level, that's what you're looking at. That's the way that it's functioning. So when you have connections between the centers, the energy can flow back and forth. So you might have energy flowing from the root, which is the pressure center, up to the emotional center, and it can go flow back again. And those 2 centers are defined and consistent, and your life will have pressurized emotional energy. That's going to be part of your makeup. That's what we're looking at.
Cool. Yeah, it makes sense. Because I looked at the chart, and it's like any chart. When you look at it, it's just got words and numbers, and it doesn't mean much. But now I can see where I've got the areas, as you say, that I'm sending it out, and where I can receive. That makes a bit more sense to me. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And as an individual, if I look at my human design, how will it help me understand myself and my qualities? Does it do that?
Yeah. Well, the way that what you initially get in human design when you get any reading, or even when you get a report. It will give you 2 of the most important things you will ever come across in your life. Might be a bit biased, but really. And that is your strategy and your authority. So where human design differs from astrology is that it's practical. It's actually practical. I mean, for years, I always was I've never really been into astrology, and I have a new respect for it, to be fair. But I used to receive it like someone would read me my something, or I've had my chart done and I would go, oh, cool, yeah. So the stars know who I am, and what? Like, where does that leave me? This is not helpful. I already knew that about myself. I mean, for me, and I'm an emotional being. So every time I ever got my chat, I'm like, oh, you're Pisces and you cry and you're full of emotion. And I'm like, I know this, and this is not helping me. Whereas human design gives you tools. So your strategy and your authority. And your strategy comes from what aura type you are. And your authority comes from which center is the most the most powerful center you have defined. Mm-hmm. And so what that's sharing with you, for me, I like to share it as the metaphor, like we're all different vehicles. You learn to know what your vehicle is, and then you learn to drive your vehicle. You've got you've got your steering wheel, you've got your gear stick, and it gives you these, when my mind, and this is the body, right? The vehicle, the body. Yep. So when our mind says go left, there's actually something else in our body that might be saying go right. And so we learn to tune into that with this strategy and authority.
Makes sense.
No?
Sure. I'm slightly afraid of asking this one. I sent you my chart, and did you have a chance to look at it?
Yeah, absolutely.
My voice has gone a little bit squeaky. It's like, oh great.
You're perfect just the way you are. Don't you worry.
I'm afraid to ask. What did it say about me? What did it tell you? I can stick
to this. Sorry. I'd love to share sticking to the strategy and authority of you. I mean, these are the main 2 things, right?
Yeah.
I think you know this already. Your strategy, because you are a generator. So generators are about 70% of the population. So we really do live in a generator world. And generators, what makes them generators is definition in the sacral center. So that's at the middle, at the bottom, you've got colored in sacral. And your sacral is not here to initiate things, not here to push, not here to go. The conditioning of the just do it, hustle kind of culture can be really detrimental to the sacral. What the sacral is here to do is respond, wait to respond. And so your body moves, and it's in the most satisfying ways when it goes, yeah, this way. Someone says, hey, do you want to come and have a coffee with me tomorrow? And your body goes, just simple decisions like that, where your mind might go, oh yes, well, he had a coffee last week, so we should have a coffee again this week, or it was quite fun then, or you can hear the mind is always making all of our decisions for you. And I bet you've tuned into this. Most people who have done any work, they hear this information and they go, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So for you, it's like a body, and it's particularly in this sacral center. You hear this in other language, your hara, your dantian, like this is ancient wisdom just come back again, really. So you have this but for you specifically, you also have emotionality, which is our newest awareness center. And so the emotional strategy is about waiting to get clear with the feelings about what you want to do. So for bigger decisions, it's important for you to go, but I'll just see if I'm still an tomorrow, or I'll see if my body still responds. Because when we have emotionality, and like I said, it's the same for me, we live on this emotional frequency where we're up and down, and we take time before we really have enough frequency information to know where to go, what to do next. And the emotional center is half of the population. So if you can imagine, I mean, we're living in a paradigm right now that says learn to make a decision. I mean, I remember when I was working in management, I had to just make a decision so I looked confident, even though I just Russian roulette, like, oh, make it look like I'm decisive. And this is just the worst thing you can do as an emotional being. We're very deep. We're getting information from this emotive awareness field that takes time to really, it's this. And I kind of see you nodding like that makes sense for you. Does that feel true?
It's true. Yeah. I went on a course that sort of taught me my internal yes and no, and we were doing the rolling backwards and forwards, finding out what was the yes and no, and then just standing still and feeling it, and it was always sort of in my belly button area that I feel the like, oh yeah, it sort of rises up as a yes, or it's like a no thanks. And yeah, as you say, sometimes the mind goes, well, logically we should, but my body's going, nope, nope, nope. And I've learned to listen to it, but also like you say, I understand I'm a Pisces as well, and I know I'm emotional, and I know that I have a high, then I have a low, then I have a high, then I have a low, then I have a high and a low, and I'm like, okay, I need to make my choices somewhere where there's a bit of balance, rather than I'm being in the doldrums and it's don't do this, or it's high and it's like, oh, I'm ecstatic, oh yeah, this is amazing, and I need to calibrate it. So yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, of course, I love when people just go, yeah, I get that. Like, how do you know this about me? But it's the other awesome thing about human design for me has been that, like, really to get how different we are. Like you and I are sitting here being emotional beings, but half of the world doesn't have that. Can you believe that? From where I'm sitting, I feel like every human is emotional. That's just what life is. I'm this emotional queen. Like, all I am is emotion in my design. And then so I'm always trying to pull people into an emotional healing and somatic release and embodiment. This is my truth, right? This is what's really supported me. Really important to know, half of the people in the world not emotional. They just wake up still, no emotional frequency. Now, they are impacted by the emotional beings. In fact, some of the people who look the most emotional have open centers, because actually the way that works is that the emotional person sitting next to them, they are amplifying their emotionality. So the person with the emotion is sitting with it and managing to breathe through it, or used to it, and then the open emotional has the breakdown. So it looks like, sometimes people say, oh, but I'm the most emotional person in the room always. And yeah, it's good to know that mechanic as well. But I don't know, learning that, yeah, half of the people aren't really here for being emotional. That's not, yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
It's very useful, isn't it? You can see how if you did that with your family, your relationships, your business partners, then you can navigate a way where you're understanding why their response isn't the way you think it should be, because actually you're saying you're emotional, they're not emotional, and yeah, wow.
Yeah, what human design really brings us is this, I mean, they call it inner authority. So your strategy and authority is only yours. And I mean, I'm pretty sure you will have had this experience too, Kevin, where we're kind of taught to look for leaders, right? We're taught to look for leaders outside of ourselves, mentors. I mean, it starts with parents and teachers, and who do I resonate with and who can I follow? Human design is the end of that, which has been quite a big deal for me. Like, it's the end of anyone knowing what is my truth. Or, yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that I have followed or would get tempted to follow, I see are actually really not following their own truth. They've got the opposite centers open than me. And so, yeah, there's really something very like empowering. And I mean, to really get your inner guidance is the only thing that is correct for you. No matter, I mean, for children, right? No matter what even their parents say, like, get a lot. And that it's completely reliable. You don't have to think it through. Like that's an old paradigm. There's no thinking it through anymore. There's no pros and cons list. There's no asking someone who you think is wiser than you. There's just, for you, there's just, oof, this is in my body. This is obvious to me. And after enough times that you make a decision following that, what happens, well, this is what we call the human design experiment. You gain this trust. You go, oh, wow, I didn't think I was going down this road, but I'm at a beautiful waterfall, and like, this is the best thing that could have ever happened. Or, this has been my experiment and my experience the last 4 years. Like, I couldn't have thought of this being any better, but my body knew, and it gets very solid. It's a very, very trusting place to be.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, a friend of mine, I was saying at the beginning of this that a friend of mine was talking about human design many years ago, almost a decade ago, and she used to send me questions, and I would then phone her up and ask her the questions, and she was doing that experiment for a year of every time she had a choice or a decision to make, she would get a number of questions together, and then she would feel that or no, and she did the same thing, just completely trusted herself, her body, rather than, like you say, all of those mentors that are all telling you lots of different things. And yeah, when I went to Zurich, this guy was teaching us how to get our yes no from our bodies, which I don't think he got it from human design, but it's like, sounds like the same sort of human design response. Yeah, and it's, you say, it's very powerful, because I use it myself, and if I'm really like, okay, my brain's going mad for all the options, and I'm like, okay, let's just check in. What does, oh yeah, the body's like, no, it's an obvious no. I had one the other day where I was invited to do something, and in my head it was perfect. It was amazing. It was like, there's these niggling feelings. I was like, okay, let's forget about the head and all the beautiful stuff that could happen. Does my body think it's right? And it was like a no. I was like, oh. So I went back and said no, and I think there was a bit of a shock from the person, because they sold it so well, but it wasn't right for me. And often that pull of something, or the pressure from other people, makes us do things or make decisions that actually aren't right for us.
Yeah.
I think we all feel it, don't we? We do it, and then we're a bit like, ooh, okay, discomfort.
That felt off. And for you, there is actually, well, for each of us, but for you specifically, your signature frequency is what it's called in human design. When you make a decision that is correct for you, and how does it feel, is satisfied. So you make the right choice, you do the thing that your body said yes to, you get to feel satisfied about it. And then the opposite, when you do the thing that your body said no to, you get to feel frustrated. And like I said, generators are the bulk of the population. And so, that is most people who will be listening, noticing this is kind of like, again, it's practical. It's like, was that the correct decision? Do I feel satisfied, or do I feel frustrated? And so, that's a beautiful way to keep yourself, to notice if your experiment is going well. Basically, that's how you that's sort of the results you're looking for. Okay, I did the right thing there. It was out of my mind, and I did what I wanted to. And God, yes, I got to the end of the day, and I was exhausted, and it's a beautiful, satisfied frequency. So that's how to drive your machine. But I just wanted to share one more thing. What you're referring to with the back and forth is a kinesiology technique originally. And for generators like yourself, obviously that really worked for you. That tuned you into like, that's my body, yes or no. And there are 7 different types of authority, and most of them, that's not going to work for. 70% it will, because that's most of the population, the generators. But can you imagine being in that room and just not getting it? Like, I don't feel anything. My body doesn't do anything. Now, that is a very correct thing for some people. We've got mental projectors, and what's the other one? The ego projector wouldn't like, reflectors. There's all these kind of more, not as many of them. But if they're in that room, and they're in many rooms like that, because everyone's looking for themselves, they're always going to feel like they failed. And then for those people, finding out that there's nothing wrong with them through human design is really, really powerful. Yeah. Not everyone's going to get that response, and most people expect that they would, because most people do. But that doesn't mean there's something, there's nothing wrong or broken. There's just, oh, you don't have a defined sacral. Haha, that's easy. Just
as you say, that's good to know. Then you know what everyone else is going. Oh yeah, I'm feeling it. So you're going, what are you going on about?
Yeah. I attract a lot of people in my work that don't have defined sacrals, and they've just spent their life being like, what is everyone talking about? I don't get it.
Yeah. You've no idea at all.
Totally. I mean, it speaks to the like sort of generic teaching or generic programs, or most of us, and this was me too, pre-human design, I had already come to a place through my own personal development and spiritual awareness, and I'd done most things since I was a teenager. I'd done most things, and I was at the point where I was teaching what I'd learned. And then I was halfway through that journey when human design found me, and I realized I'm teaching people to be me. I'm telling them to be emotionally empowered, and not everyone is here for that. And I had to just cut it. I had to start again, because it was just really actually inauthentic. And having learned this knowledge, I've had to reframe the way that I teach people, because most leaders are teaching people what they have learned. Get that? That's not for everyone.
That's huge, isn't it?
It really is.
That's a massive change to realize that what you've been doing isn't for everyone. It's for the 70%. And you've been attracting the 30%.
It really puts it on its head. It was quite a lot for me to process.
I bet it was.
Human design is beautiful that way.
And then you mentioned spirituality. How does human design fit in with spirituality, if at all?
Yeah, awesome. Well, like I said, I have been on, and I'm sure, Kevin, you know some of this, my journey. I did my first big cathartic emotional processing experience when I was 19, and I was absolutely hooked in the personal development world. And then, that did switch in my mid-20s to, or even a little before, I was sitting Vipassana really often, and I'd done my attunement to Reiki and transcendental meditation. Like, it was just my world, right? And then a little later, plant medicine came in, and I sat many, 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 many ceremonies. And again, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't share with you that when human design came in, I went, oh, like, have I been on the wrong track? And I'm happy to share with you that I wasn't. Don't worry. The way that I see it now is that, I guess, if you want to use, like, using the word spirituality, like that realm, the best metaphor I have for it now is that it's two sides of the same coin, the magic and the logic. Human design is the logic. Human design unpacks you can have these experiences in the spiritual realm, and then you can logically understand what's been going on. For a long while, I felt like human design was taking the magic away from me. But now I've actually started teaching the magic again. So I really do. It's exactly the same thing. It is exactly the same thing, but it's just coming from a different angle. It's the science of differentiation. And then there's the magic of differentiation. We still get to dance with with all of our pieces, all of ourselves. What human design gifts us, I guess, is just this extra understanding of what is, well, they say, what is the mechanic? Maybe I can give you an example. Maybe I just stick with the example of the emotionality. I've noticed that a lot of people in the spiritual world, doing healing rounds and the things just like yourself, have emotionality. They have the solar plex defined. And it's obvious to me through my learning in human design that is because that is the deepest awareness center. We have 3 different awareness centers. And the emotional awareness center, it's not just the the most aware, you could just say. It's not just the most aware and feeling into all the different realms, but it's also in a transition into spirit awareness right now. So those of us that are holding those, you know, having that defined, we are really feeling this kind of chaos in the ether of all things. You know, I'm sure you can relate to that. And of course, those with openness there are feeling the amplification of that, but it's not really who they are. So we are experiencing that. You know, we are the body and we are the mind and we are the spirit. And for those of us with that emotionality, this transition is churning every day for us. Now, for me, if not for the human design logic, I would still be feeling this upheaval and this transformation and this, really this movement into something different. But with the logic of human design, I can sit more calmly in it because I can see logically what's happening. Oh, okay, we're going through, I mean, the language, we're actually going through a global cycle that includes the next genetic mutation in the awareness center. And somehow, because of my own experience in human design and my trust in it, because of my own experience, that allows me to go, that's good. That's a relief. It's understandable. And so I can pull myself out of the chaos. That makes sense. Doesn't mean it's not happening, you know, it doesn't mean we're not going through it. And everyone with emotionality right now is in this, it's kind of like we're growing up, actually. Since the 60s, we're going through this cycle of emotionality growing up. But we're not quite grown up yet.
Puberty, all that pain, yeah. It's like that, isn't it? That makes complete sense to me as well when you're saying that, because I feel all the emotions but my sort of shamanic side allows me to step into the other world, so I'm standing in both, and that sort of balances me. And what you're saying is the human design that's helped you balance yours, so you can see both sides of the story, so it's not fully emotional. But I'm seeing a lot of people that are just stuck in the fully emotional. They're just like, it's the end of time, and it's all going to bits. You know, they need to understand that there is another side to it.
Yeah, I mean, logically, what is going on here? I mean, the foundation class that I teach, what I mostly do in my work, takes someone through step by step. What is the underpinning of the fabric of reality? And then what is stepped on top of that? And then what is stepped on top of that? And getting to the point where we can just go, it's just that. That's nice.
I can relax.
Yeah. Yeah, surrender to that, you know. Our bodies are just doing what our bodies do, and life keeps lifing. That's one of my favorite sayings. And life just keeps lifing, and everything's it's a lot. It's very much, I mean, if I think back to the year leading up to my finding human design, and even though I had done all that work, I was still finding myself having quite chaotic times. Yeah, I don't have such chaos anymore. I just don't. It's, I have this feeling of emotionality in my body, and I'm watching it going, wow, that is a feeling. And my life is a lot sweeter, that's for sure.
It's beautiful. So if someone had just found human design, maybe this is the first time they've heard of it because of this chat, what advice would you give them? What would you say their next step should be, and how do they progress and really start to understand it and embody it in their life, so they feel like you're feeling the emotions but actually grounded and solid and balanced, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing you can do is have a look at your own chart, and there is actually a recognized international human design school, and there's a lot of other things popping up now in the collective as it gets more popular. But the original source that was set up by the messenger of human design is the International School of Human Design. And you just Google them, go and find your chart. But then, there's always this I just want to have a look at my chart first, but then get a reading. you know, a lot of people doing their own self-study, but if you can imagine, they're only going to see what comes through the mind, just like the personality profiling that some people get caught in that, you know, then people get caught in the self-study and they don't get to have the transformation. Right. So actually getting a reading and actually getting like studying with someone who is trained. Yeah. It's funny how we have this, let's do it ourselves attitude. I can't tell you the value I've gotten with working with people who've actually just been doing in their own truth. Mm-hmm. If they're in their own truth, then there's actually a frequency exchange that really supports the transition. You don't know what you don't know. That's basically it. And somebody else really does have to see that for you. I can't recommend that enough. Yeah, I get quite passionate about seeing human design not have the impact it really can have, because the foundations have not been laid right. So do yourself a favor and do it right. Yeah.
There is that in the collective, isn't there? To do what we all want it free. So you get your free chart, and you, as you say, you read the bits. And because if I looked at my chart, I would just manifesting generator, wait to respond. That's probably about as far as I'd have gone.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
I mean, okay. I can't tell you how many people sit in front of me and go, I wait for my messages, but just have some completely, that's not what that means. It is jargon, you know, it is a whole industry full of massive jargon, the whole work of it. You really have to learn it. Would you just Google French and then, go to France? You need to learn it. You need to be taught it. Yeah, it's funny. I was reading yours before we jumped on, and it's one of the things that Ra Uru was that he calls himself the first student of human design, because it wasn't, it came through him, not over him, and he used to say that it's an acoustic download, and now there is plenty of people out there offering the reports, and not everyone here is actually built to be visual and get information that way. And in fact, I mean, it's my experience that it's more than words on a page. You need to hear them from someone that you resonate with and to really get it in your cells. The other thing that they do call human design is a cellular transformation. And reading off a page. And also, I love how you said that, you skim for the bits you want to read, right? I like that bit, and I like this bit, and I like that bit. You're getting nothing.
Exactly. You're just what your brain is doing is you're matching it to what you think is you, like you said before, and the other bits you sort of whatever, that's fluff. I'm not going to even look at that bit, and that's probably where the gold is. That's the bits that you get to go, okay.
Yeah, that's just what the brain does, right? It's like a recognition machine. So there's no choice in it, but hear it from a professional. That's my advice.
And is that something you're offering?
Yes and no, actually. So my specialty is teaching the foundational course, which comes after a reading. I can translate your chart. I can translate it, and there is a rung above me of people who analyze. So you could get a reading from an analyst, which I am not. I am a teacher. Yep. So you can do the foundational training without having your chart analyzed. So depending on where you're at in financial situations, I do have people come in absolutely fresh to my foundational classes. But if you have the means, have your chart analyzed first. Yeah,
that makes sense. And if somebody wanted to join your course, you get to tell us a little bit more about it and whet their appetite.
Yeah. That sounds fun. Well, it's the Human Design School offer 3 foundational classes. Before then, you can go on to professional training. Okay. And I mean, this is kind of cool. My design is here to initiate. I'm a manifestor, and it's here to teach it. It's education. My actual body. It's so funny. When I first learned this, I come from a family of teachers, and I have pushed that away. I live in a different world. I'm the alternative. I'm the black sheep, and now it's come full circle that my actual body design is the cross of education. So funny. So I teach the first one, and of course I'm going to be passionate about it because it's the one that actually teaches you to live your design. It's called Living Your Design. And I also like to call it and give it this the mechanics of the miracle. That's my perception of it. Yeah,
Cool.
it really is. So it lays every bit of foundation. It's the only course that you need to be able to live your design. Now, there's study that you could do for your whole life within the human design world, but living your design is what it's actually about. So, yeah, it's what else can I share? It's usually about an 8-week program. I'm emotional, so sometimes we go a little bit more. And it is teaching, like I said, from the very fundamentals. How does the body graph get imprinted? What are all of the centers? What are all of the strategies, all of the authorities? We look at your child, we look at your partner's child, your children's child, and one of my favorites is parents, because that really makes sure you do the work, And by the end of it, you should very well be able to live your strategy and authority and fully be in your experiment. And that's what human design's for. Yeah, for you.
Sounds beautiful. Is that sort of an in-person course, or is it online, or how would that work?
Mostly online at the moment. I have run some retreats. I guess if people want to follow me, they can see. They can see when I'm live, but I don't have another one booked right now. Mostly online. So I usually take 8 to 10 participants, and we do video calls, and then we do group chat, and we unpick our whole lives. It's amazing.
Sounds amazing. I'm sure lots of people will be interested. I'm certainly interested. It's piqued my interest. Cool.
Yeah, it's something that can be like kind of I get a lot of sort of coaches, leaders, people already in the healing realms that come through, just because that's really where I've come from. And just only need the foundations to just have that little bit of extra awareness about who's sitting in front of them as well. Can be really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the people that come to me, I'm almost prejudging on a few words they've said. So if I could get them to fill in the chart, and then that gives me an idea of what's coming in, what's going out, and where they're strong, where they're not so strong, that would assist definitely in some of the healings.
Totally. One of the most beautiful things or the most, I'd say, powerful things that we learn in this living your design is which parts of us, which particular stories we have that we can watch in our minds. So, I mean, we're at this stage of the game, right? We hear our mind, we know that's not who we are, but yeah, I'd love to share, like for me, like I said, I had done so much work. I felt I was meditating every day. I was doing all the things. But when I learned in human design, we call it not self. You could liken it to mind, to false self, I think you get the message. When I learned the specific themes and even the specific sentences that my mind was built to say to me, it made it so much easier to be like, aha, you're not real. That's what you would tell me, because I have this, particular openness or not. And that was on a very basic level, that was really potent. I was still sort of hearing something in my mind and going, oh yeah, but that sort of makes sense. And, sometimes we get caught up, right? Of course. But human design knowledge made me go, wait, you said something. For me, it was like about proving myself, not feeling good enough. And so then with that theme, knowing that theme, whenever my mind said anything to do with that, I was like, gotcha. That's not me. That's not who I am. And it really moved me. Yeah, really moved me forward.
Yeah. That's, as you say, that's the powerful bit, isn't it? Is there's all that little piece that we know about ourselves, but there's that huge area that we don't know about ourselves, and we know we don't know, and there's it that we don't know we don't know.
Exactly. And the journey continues, there's no end to it. But yeah, this just having the foundations, it's just, it changed everything for me. And I see it, I see it with participants, like, yeah, it's fascinating and transformational just to have the logical awareness. I mean, it's so funny to me when I hear logic. I'm not really built for logic. And it makes me go, what? You're one of these people that wants to understand. But yeah, there's something to it. That's all I'll say about that.
I just love that you've gone all the way around the circle and the teacher part as well. This is always the way is that whatever our parents are doing, well, I'm not doing that. I'm different.
My mother and my big sister, like big on the education. And I was like, black sheep, I'm going to run away. I'm going to join the circus, like I was. And then, yeah, when one of my mentors said, oh, design of an educator, I was like, no, don't make me do it. But it feels so good in my body to teach. And it really just does. I mean, I can tell it's not my mind, right? We have these two parts of us that are very mapped in our human design. My mind resists the teaching. But when I sit in front of a class, I watch my voice just start going, oh, and you need to know this, and you need to know this. And it just all happens, and it's body awareness happening. And it's fascinating to have that awareness. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, you can see a teacher that's embodied because there's just a natural flow. There's some that have got all these spreadsheets, and you can tell that they're just reading stuff, and then there's other people that it just. I remember that from school. There's those teachers that were your favourite ones, where they were just joyous almost in the way that they taught you, and it was all alive, even if it was the most boring subject. And yeah, so
Yeah.
that makes complete sense as well.
Yeah, I've had so much fun with it, I can't tell you. It really is. Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like I get to help people, like, unwrap the universe. Like, I can't believe my luck. We're unboxing the full multiverse together. It's just, I couldn't possibly have imagined. It's amazing. Yeah.
So if people are interested in this next foundation, when's your next one?
I will be starting one at the end of July. So there is time. Yeah, I mean, you can probably put links places, right?
Oh,
I mean, the best place just to get to know me better is Instagram right now, to be honest. But maybe I feel like the best, if it's if you're really let's go, email. Just put my email link.
yeah, I'll do that. I'll put your links there for everyone that's interested. I'm sure people will be. And is there anything else you'd like to share while you've got this beautiful audience? Anything you like?
Oh, that's so special. Thanks. Let's see. Well, I guess just on a personal note, I mean, I've shared with you your generatedness, which is awesome. And that I am a manifestor, so I am one of the people that has the open sacral. The rest of us don't have a sacral, so that's about 30%. Varies, of course. And so that for a manifestor, my signature is peace. So you've got satisfaction. Manifestors have peace. And yeah, I mean, I guess just to share that, like, it's been 4 years, and I thought I knew peace. This is another, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I'm sure I'd be saying the same thing at a different frequency in 4 years. But yeah, I just really want to share that. Like, when this work is about bringing us into least resistance and peace, and for the projector, it's success, and for the generator, it's satisfaction, and for our 1% that are reflectors, it's surprise. And this is where we could be, as a whole collective. We could all actually be in our signature, is what they call it, or our least resistant frequencies. And for me, even though I had done just so much work, it wasn't until I had these, like, the logical pieces that helped me just peel away the last subtle, the little subtleties that I didn't know were there. And yeah, my life is peaceful. It's peaceful now. I just don't think I could have said that. I would have been lying. So yeah, Yeah, this is very much a time of awareness and awakening, and this feels like a crucial piece. So yeah, happy to hear from you, of course. Love this work. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you not for scaring me too much with my chart.
Oh, bless you. Not at all. Yeah. All charts are phenomenal. Like, wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.